Stephenie Zinn, your 2025 CDAR president, and this morning I am here with Pat Veling. Pat, good morning.
Stephenie, it's great to be with you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to join you today.
Absolutely. I wanted to just say thank you for joining us at our 2025 Spring Summit that we just had. We got some really great feedback from the information you gave us,
Good.
and we really appreciated you being there.
That was an outstanding event. I cannot believe how much great content you guys put into a single day. I was totally spent at the end of the day. I assume everybody else was as well.
Yeah, we were all
Yeah.
saying after it that we had such a great time at the mixer that we had at the end. We had such a great time, but we all felt like we needed another day to implement everything we learned at that event into our
Yeah.
businesses. So it
Yeah.
was it was very powerful. We got some great feedback though from the information that you shared, and our members were letting us know that they kind of wanted to hear a little bit more about, what about the info you shared with us and about Desert Dynamics. So this great tool that we have. And so let's get into it. What do you have to share
Okay. Yeah,
today?
absolutely. I'm pleased to share some of my own history with getting Desert Dynamics up and running in your association. I need to say that you guys have done a great job in making this tool accessible to your realtor members, and it's a really outstanding competitive edge in regards to a member benefit. It's a realtor only member benefit. And I can tell you that we too get really good feedback, and it's pretty clear your members appreciate it. So I'm happy to be here with you today to talk a little bit about it and perhaps introduce members to it who are yet unfamiliar with it or are not experts. And for those who are really familiar with it and possibly even experts, I've got some power tips and tricks that we'll share with everybody at the end. I'll share the screen and we'll actually demonstrate a little bit of the app so people get a feel for what we're talking about today.
Awesome. Well, let's get into it.
Yeah, so Desert Dynamics is a really robust, highly interactive application, and it's available on the SSO dashboard for your MLS. And assuming that somebody is a Realtor member with CDAR, they'll see the ability to go to Desert Dynamics. The most important thing for everybody to understand is that the market is in a significant shift as we speak today. It hasn't been in a significant shift for a while, but we are back again into a significantly different market than we've seen recently, which makes the kind of metrics that Desert Dynamics makes available to your members really critical to the practice of those members and to their sellers and buyers. NAR announced today, and this is nationally, not having anything to do with the desert, but NAR announced today that sales activity is at its lowest level since 2009.
Wow.
And when you think about that, we all remember what a meltdown 2008, 2009 were. We are nowhere close to that in the desert, but certain markets nationally, Texas, Florida, other markets are seeing significant differences in their market activity. And so that simply elevates the critical importance of Desert Dynamics metrics to everybody's practice. And what we do at RDS and Realty Analytics, the people who provide the data for Desert Dynamics, is that we make this data accessible, easily accessible, in easily understandable form, so that all of your members can be better at interpreting market data to message the right message to sellers and buyers. And so that's really what Desert Dynamics is about and what it does. We all know that real estate's a supply and demand economy. Inventory is up about 20% nationally over what it was last year. Sellers, as a result, are competing with one another. Buyers have a lot more choices. And so the whole put a sign in front of the yard, put it in the MLS, get it sold mentality is no longer the case. And that really, what it allows Desert Dynamics to do is elevate the expertise of CDAR members from just somebody who lists a house to somebody who becomes an actual advisor to their seller.
Right. And it's so important for all of us in this profession to be the local economist, to know those numbers. And for those of us, I always joke, and I joked at the summit, for those of us that are the real estate geeks, and they really like to dig into those numbers and know what the stats are for our neighborhood so that we know what the days on market are, that we know, what the list to sell ratio is, we know what the discount rate is in any given neighborhood. Those numbers are so important when you're sitting in front of your sellers and even when you're sitting in front of buyers. A little while ago, I had
Correct.
a seller tell me that he wanted to overprice his house and he's like, just bring me a dumb buyer. And I'm like, where do you think we're going to find those today? Because they have
Yeah.
all the information at their fingertips. Our job is to help people interpret that information. And I think, for somebody who's an old school real estate stats geek and used to love pulling numbers out of some of the old systems that we had access to, they're really antiquated now and don't work very well.
Right.
This new tool for me has really opened that back up where I feel like I have control over those numbers again and I'm able to access them, especially since now we're able to go down to the subdivision level in all those neighborhoods. It makes all the difference in the world for us. I'm looking like pros when we go out there and meet with our clients.
Well, and like I said, it frees you up, no longer having to spend the time to process the data, put it in a
Yes.
form that you can understand and repurpose. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that will allow you to repurpose it if you want. But for the most part, it's really going to reduce the time that you would have typically needed to take in order to become the expert that you are, or to prove to your sellers and buyers that you're the expert who you are.
Right,
So,
right. It
mhm.
really does go a long way when you can walk in with some stats on the neighborhood. And especially if you're up against somebody who people perceive as a neighborhood expert, it can really, really arm you well when you go into those appointments. All
Yeah.
right. Well, where are we at next? Are we going to get into it?
Well, yeah. So I want to talk about a couple of just general market statistics first, and then we'll
Okay.
get into the actual specifics.
Okay.
The first thing is, it's no surprise that, and we talked about this at your recent event. It's no surprise that the activity of 2024 was lower than everybody had expected it would be. The market in 2023 had been so robust and so significant. Interest rates began to climb. There were a bunch of other factors involved. Inventory remained very low, and then inventory began to really significantly increase. And so what that resulted in was 2024 being lower levels of activity than anybody expected. In fact, the annual units in your MLS were down about 1.5%,
Mhm.
2024 over 2023. And in addition, prices were actually up. So it's a very interesting shifting dynamic in the numbers. I do want to say that that's a year over year, 12-month over 12-month comparison, looking at all of 2024 to all of 2023. When
Sure.
we look at the first quarter of 2025 and we compare that to the first quarter of 2024, so we're just looking at a 90-day slice this
Mhm.
year compared to the same 90 days of last year, the market is up significantly. So there's a seasonality to this, obviously. Q1, versus Q1 versus the entire 12-month depends on what numbers you really want to know. But when we look at year over year versus year to date over year to date, which is what I'm talking about at this second data point, sales activity is up 3.1% this first quarter versus this first quarter of last year, which is pretty interesting.
Mhm.
Prices, though, are beginning to moderate a little bit, not a surprise. So where before prices were up by a full percentage point, now they're only up by about 0.4%, or 0.04%, excuse me, when we compare the first quarter of this year to the first quarter of last year. So I think that's important context because it suggests that the difficulty we saw in the market last year is perhaps going to improve in the next couple of months in the first half of this year.
Well,
So
that's good
let's
news for
talk
all of
about,
us.
pardon me, I'm
I said
sorry.
that's good news for all of
That
us.
is good news. That's
Yeah.
terrific. Let
Yeah.
me talk about how it works first of all, and then we'll get into sharing some power tools and tips and tricks. The first thing is, as I've said earlier, Desert Dynamics is available from your single sign-on dashboard. So if you're a Realtor member, just click on the button. It'll take you there. It's Realtor only. It's not available to MLS only members or to members of other associations of realtors.
Right. And
The
that's from
date.
our, just to clarify real quick, that's from our CDAR website. So they would log in, put in their username and password. And once you get to the page where most of us just see the page where you click to go into the MLS, but there's
Mhm.
so many other buttons there. One of them is Desert Dynamics. If you look,
Correct.
I promise it's there.
It's
And,
there.
and you can click on it, and it means that you don't have to log in. That single sign on means that you don't have to log into any of the other services that are there, including Desert Dynamics.
That's correct. And we've worked really hard to make that as seamless for your members as possible. And
Yeah.
so the whole idea is to, keep your browser open if you want and go between the various applications that are made available to you through single sign-on.
Yeah.
Um, Desert Dynamics data is updated monthly. In order to make it accurate, eliminating duplicates, do all the other things that we need to do to be sure it's accurate, we can't make it real time. So your MLS can make it real time, but it's going to be subject to some of those issues, including duplicates, including wrong geographies that people put in inadvertently or whatever. We correct all of that. So just know that it provides current inventory as of the month that's being reported. It includes market time, days on market, absorption rate, a whole bunch of different metrics. And we're not going to tell anybody what individual metric should be most important to them. What Desert Dynamics does is it serves up all of these metrics and it allows any of your members to use whichever metric they want to build their advice around.
Sure.
And whether that's tracking competing active inventory, whether it's looking at absorption rate, whether it's market time, whatever the case may be, all of that is built in. Another thing that's pretty important here is that your members need to know that there's a lot of thought that's been put into this 27-month history that we make available. And what that allows your members to do is get 3 annualized data points for the same month over 3 different periods. And so they can look at, for example, activity and metrics that are important in March of 2025, the same numbers compared to March of 2024, and the same numbers compared to March of 2023. So they get 3 different monthly data points over a 3-year period. And so this is important historical context when an agent is counseling a seller or a buyer on current market conditions versus what the historical market conditions may be. And then something else that's pretty important is that mid-year last year, we worked with your association to put together a summary PDF report that gets emailed to member brokers and agents who want it, which summarize all of the marketplace metrics at the city or zip code level. So we understand that not all agents are as technically proficient or really interested in diving into the robust interactivity of Desert Dynamics. And so those PDF reports, which get published monthly, within a few days of when Desert Dynamics goes live with the data, that gets, pushed to the association, and the association makes sure that all of its member firms and agents have all of this data available to them for purposes of however they wish to use it.
That's
And
wonderful
so,
because a lot of times we don't necessarily need to give clients, 30 pages, but there's 1 or 2 pages out of that report that come in really handy. So the individual PDFs are really helpful. So we appreciate you
yeah,
guys.
and I'll show everybody in just a minute here how to get there, just so you guys know.
Sure.
But the important thing is to just know that the data is available to you, and know that it's up to you to interpret it as the experts that you are. And Desert Dynamics makes that easier for you. So that's the whole objective here. It's to synthesize as much data from your MLS into valid messaging and talking points that everybody can leverage to their benefit.
Absolutely. Awesome.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Let's do it.
A lot of people get intimidated by this first screen without really realizing that it's very simple to use simply by putting anything in the search bar. First thing I'm going to do is say, show me all property types. We break the data into single family or condo or all. For this purpose, I'm going to look at all property types. And I'm going to go ahead and type in just Coachella and see what happens here. And you can see we've got 3 different options that come up when I type in Coachella. I can look at the city of Coachella, I can look at this Coachella zip code, or I can look at what we have defined as a market area called the Coachella Valley. It's an aggregation of various cities within your MLS jurisdiction, which make it easy for you to understand what's going on throughout the entire Coachella Valley. And we have different market definitions built in. One of them is Coachella Valley, which looks at all 9 or 10 cities that make it easy to get an overall summary. So when you search by Coachella Valley, you can see what's going on more or less valley-wide with 759 sales here for the month of March. And you can see this is the 27-month history I discussed earlier, giving you any data point that you may wish to compare to the current monthly data point of 759. So we see the current monthly data point up here, and then we see the historical values down here, including this trend over the previous year. So this is showing that sales are down about 0.7% Coachella Valley wide. These 759 sales represent here. If you want to look at them by single family or condo, you can do that simply by clicking here. And when you add 259 condo sales to 500 single family sales, you get the 759 number. And so it's important that everybody understands that not all residential real estate's the same. Condos and townhouses are treated differently, right? Sale price will change, median, average, et cetera, based on whatever you're choosing. Inventory also changes here.
I want to stop you for just one second because I want to bring up something that we talked about as we were kind of vetting this product. At one point, the discussion over attached versus detached came up, and I think I was actually the person who brought it up in our board meeting. But I asked Annette to go back and look at the numbers to see if there was enough. We couldn't figure out why we didn't think of it that way, but we also went back and looked at the numbers to see if there were enough attached single family homes to skew that number, and we didn't feel that there were. So for anybody that's concerned about that, whether it's attached versus detached when it comes to single family or condo, we did look at those numbers to see if we needed to separate that out further, and it just wasn't enough data for us to feel like that subset of the attached was enough to make a different sector. So that's just
yes, that was an important qualifier that you guys looked at very early in our curve, and we agreed with you on that. And this is really less of a property type question than it is a lifestyle question. And so that's really why we're doing it this way. Whether there's a shared wall or something like that is less important than the lifestyle these property types represent. And so we're not selling houses. As realtors, we are selling lifestyles. And that's where the expertise that each of us has comes into play here to add value. I'm going to show you the first power tip. First of all, you can print out any of these graphs. There's a print button at the top of the screen. You can do any of that you wish. But I want to show you a much easier way to get this content out of Desert Dynamics. And the first thing is you need a screen capture tool. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the Windows snipping tool here. It popped up. I'm going to go ahead and say, give me a new snip. And I'm simply going to go grab this graph, just like that. So I just popped up the snipping tool, and I now have it in my application. And then watch this. If I'm going to go ahead and send an email, I simply go here, open my email app, create a new email, and all I have to do is hit Control V for paste. And now I have any piece of data from Desert Dynamics in the email that I'm sending.
Sure. That's a pretty simple way to do that too. It's kind of foolproof.
It's foolproof. It's one of the most valuable tools that anybody can use today. And what I'm learning in training on Desert Dynamics and other areas is that very few people actually do this on a regular basis.
This might be kind of a silly analogy, but honestly, it reminds me a little bit of like scrapbooking, where you take one picture and build a story around it. You could grab any one of these screenshots, plop it into an email, and build a story around those screenshots that you grabbed, and could make a really interesting read.
And look at every single potential metric we've got just in this cover page for Coachella Valley. We've got all of this stuff. You can easily capture multiple screenshots, put this in your email, send it to your prospect or your client. This is one of my favorites, with 76% of listings being sold within 90 days of list date. If you're dealing with a seller who is in price denial and thinks that a dumb buyer is going to show up and overpay for their listing, pop this into the email and say, Mr. Seller, we're now on the market for over 120 days. 76% of your competition have already gone into escrow. What do you think could be the problem? A couple of other quick things I want to show you. The first thing is, let's go ahead and do a comparison of Coachella Valley to a particular marketplace such as Rancho Mirage. So I'm going to go ahead and type in Rancho. And we can see here, everything that has Rancho in the name pops up, just like in the main screen. All
Mhm.
right. Watch this. We're going to go look at Rancho Mirage compared to Coachella Valley, all in a single look. And this shows Rancho Mirage median price per square foot over a 27-month history, or actually longer. This gives us a 4-year history. And you can change all of this if you want. You can change the history. You can do anything you want. You can look at inventory, median sale price, sales activity, between two or more different markets, market time. So we can see here a comparison of more than one marketplace within Desert Dynamics. And boy, you want to talk about a powerful screen capture graph. This is it, man. This is like an amazing
Yeah.
piece of information of somebody saying, hey, I'm not sure if I should be buying in La Quinta or if I should be buying in Rancho Mirage. Can you give me some history that will help me to put that into context? This would be the way to very easily do that graphically. And you can add 5 or maybe 6 markets to the same graph if you want. 5 or 6 gets a little bit wonky in regards to so many data points, but certainly comparing 2 or 3 within the same graph, very easy to do. And again, this is from the menu, and I just did compare area stats. All right, I'm going to type in one more search. And I'm going to look at Riverside County. And this is giving us everything happening in the MLS in Riverside County. But watch this. We're going to look at all, stats for any time period within the county. And everything is here very easy for you to either grab a screenshot or put it in an Excel spreadsheet. Either one is fine with us. You can do
This is
any.
really great too because, when I'm doing my MLS searches, I always say that I like use this like zoom in, zoom out kind of thought process while I'm looking. So I might start in the city of Rancho Mirage and I might go down to, maybe one subdivision and then I'm going to go back out again and look to see what the competition might be or what if somebody were shopping in the same price point that I've now decided that we should be in, that what is the other competition that we're looking at? What I really love about this is being able to, with a click of a button, and maybe you can just kind of show on the screen where you can do that, that you can go back and forth from area to city to state, that
So
you can compare yourself with the entire county, which a lot of times we don't compare ourselves with the rest of Riverside County, but it's nice to be able to see what your comparison is with the rest of the
correct.
Coachella Valley and the rest of the state.
So someone like you, who's a data geek, admittedly, right? You could go
Yes.
to cities, you could go to cities within the county, you could rank them any way you choose, right? It gives you the Riverside County totals in addition to all of the cities, and it ranks them in descending sort order based on everything that you're looking for. You can do it for condos, you can do it for all property types. And I won't do this now, but you can easily export this data simply by clicking, selecting and copying into an Excel spreadsheet. So, Stephenie, someone like you who really, really loves to get into the data, all you got to do is do a cut and paste into Excel, and you are good to go here.
Yeah,
Everything you want at your
this is
disposal.
really cool because I will share with you, I was on a team a long time ago, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and each one of us, each member of the team was assigned a specific city, and we
Hmm.
were responsible for bringing the stats for that city into our team meeting so that we could all
Oh,
report on it. And we would end up with a grid of all these stats of all the cities across the Coachella Valley. And we all used to sit there for like 45 minutes before the meeting, digging out our stats and pulling it out of the old system. And
yeah.
it's so cool that this is just here now. Like my old team members and I would be having coffee and donuts instead of doing all the number pulling
Well,
that we were doing. So this is great.
so, and then one other thing that we've talked about that I want to show you, and then we'll wrap it up, is going here to the market overview links. This is what we talked about for the PDF reports that get made available on a monthly basis. So you can look at the entire Coachella Valley, either by single family or condo. You can look at individual cities by single family or condo, and you can look at any zip codes within cities having more than one zip code. So
Can you
the
back
zip
out of
codes
this
are
one more
limited to
time and show
only,
us how you got there? Where?
sure, I simply went to menu and I clicked on market area or market overview links,
Okay, got it.
and they are here. But in addition, these are distributed via the association to members outside of the Desert Dynamics app.
Yeah.
So this is what we talked about. These are the PDFs that we were talking about. So let's go look at La Quinta. I'm going to just click on single family and look at what happens the minute we click on it. It downloads to your computer a very comprehensive one-page market summary about the market that you chose. We clicked on La Quinta for single family homes. That's what this is. It gives you a quick analysis summary of the data points. It gives you a more detailed summary of the data points. It gives you the key stats, both current and historical, that all of this data references. And it also gives you a very cool graphical understanding of all of these data points, which basically put the market into either a seller advantage or a buyer advantage or somewhere in between. Many of your members are grabbing this report, taking a screenshot of just this piece of information here and
Mhm.
using it in their email address or in their emails that they're sending to customers interested in La Quinta, for example. This gives you the 27-month history we talked about for both unit sales and average or median prices, excuse me. This is the inventory graph, and these are the median sale price per square foot graph. There is so much content built into this one-page summary
Yeah.
that the whole objective here in doing this was for those people who are less interested in getting into the robust functionality of the app. This could be a good single source summary for them to understand the marketplace and for them to share this with their seller and buyer prospects.
Yeah, that
There is
is
so much going on. Go
such a
ahead.
powerful piece. That is, I was just thinking if you were like last minute, somebody called you and is like, hey, I want you to come over and look at my listing. And it's, in a city that you maybe just don't have all the stats memorized. You know what I mean? Maybe you live and work on the East Valley, in the East Valley, and you got an appointment on the West Valley. This would be such a quick way for you to pull up some stats, get some really good information in your head, and have that with you at your appointment. Put that in your listing presentation, and you have some great talking points right there in front of you. You don't even have to have memorized. You just have this
You
stuff
do
that makes
not.
you look like a rock star.
And the reason we put it into PDF is to make it as portable as possible. So all you
Yeah.
do is download it to your computer. You can attach it to your email very easily, or you can take screenshots of pieces from it. You can copy the content from it so that so the analysis talking points that it includes, you can repurpose in your own email copy, and you can look like the genius that most of us think you are. So there you go.
Right.
That's the objective here.
Well,
So
that is our point. That is the whole reason we exist is to make our members look amazing. So we've definitely heard from our members that they're interested in learning even more about this. We've heard from our brokers that they would like some additional training on how to use the system so
oh,
that we can be, as brokers, we can be experts in it and help our agents with it. And then we've also got some feedback from our agents. So I know we're going to get some trainings on the calendar. It looks like they're going to be probably coming up in the month of June. So
cool.
everybody, if you're interested in this, we're going to have Pat Veling possibly live in the office and maybe even on some Zooms doing some training. So whatever works best for you. But I would really highly recommend if you are interested in using this product, and every single realtor should be, because we all need to be the local economist. We all need to know the statistics for the neighborhoods in our areas. And, this is a program or a product that we all need to be proficient in. And I would highly recommend that you take a little time to work on your business and come into the office and learn about this product in person. You could definitely do it on Zoom. But man, Pat, you give such a dynamic presentation and people are able to ask such great questions, and they really get the benefit of each other from being in that room and hearing each other's questions. So I would highly recommend that if anybody's interested, they attend those live trainings. And we thank you so much for agreeing to get some trainings on the calendar in the month of June for
Yeah,
us.
I'm excited about that. And I hope nobody watching today's program believes that this constitutes any level of training. It does
Right.
not. This
No.
this is simply a quick overview to just discuss the function. But what you're talking about with the deeper level training, hour and 10 minutes, maybe on the app in a live dynamic environment where people are sharing best practices with one another, that's the best, absolute best way to
Absolutely.
understand how people are repurposing this and how they're using it in their practice, which is what we all need to do. We're looking for best practices here.
Wonderful. Well, Pat Veling with Real Data Strategies, thank you again so much for being with us today. It's always a pleasure. You always bring so much value and so much great information to our members, so we love having you around.
And thank you for having me. I really appreciate our partnership, and I'll look forward to seeing everybody for more training on this in the next couple of months. Thanks for
All
including
right.
me.
It's been a
All right.
pleasure. Thanks for being my first guest on our first
Wow,
podcast.
first time. Good job by you. All right.
All right. Take
Okay.
care.
Thank you.